State and local government agencies continue to focus on a multitude of cybersecurity issues to protect citizens, empower public sector employees, while also modernizing their enterprise solutions and services. I'm Wyatt Cash with Scoop News Group, and here to talk specifically about those challenges is Matt Singleton, Chief Information Security Officer for the state of Oklahoma. Matt, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Wyatt. I'm excited to be here.
So I'd like to drill down initially on one topic we're hearing more and more about, and that's what are some of the biggest security challenges you're facing in Oklahoma around the idea of protecting infrastructure against supply chain risks?
Well, so I can give you all of the usual answers, right? The organizational change, inertia, those types of things. What we've seen in Oklahoma, and we're a little bit, have a little bit of an advantage here because we started securing the supply chain back in 2019. It was one of the primary areas we wanted to start out with. So we got started doing security assessments. But what we found out was when you start talking about doing an assessment on a vendor, people immediately think, okay, well, that means any solutions from that vendor are also secure. And so we've really had to start talking about supply chain security in terms of the supplier and the solution. So there's actually two separate assessments that we'll go through in the state of Oklahoma. Anytime we're doing business with an organization, we're going to do the supplier assessment. And then anytime there's actually a project or an initiative that's been launched, we're doing a solution assessment just to make sure we're covering all our bases.
Well, it sounds like a logical approach, but probably adds to a lot of work. So how are you going about trying to, address that approach and the challenges of, developing more secure supply chain links around modern enterprise security?
So we're really trying to balance thoroughness with velocity, right? We want to make sure that we're getting all the bases covered, but we're also doing it fast. So what we've done is really tried to embrace an iterative approach. Every time we roll something else out, we want to see significant improvements in the process. We want to be able to go faster. So what we've done is we've looked for areas where we can consolidate questions, get some more meaningful questions that might actually lead us down different paths as opposed to asking people 400 different questions. Let's start with a dozen and see where we go from there. So we've tried to make it a better experience for both the suppliers and our customers within the state. Some of the other interesting things we've done on this front is working with third parties to identify kind of the overall cybersecurity posture of the suppliers that we're looking to do business with. That gives us an opportunity to get an objective view from outside of that organization, what their security practices actually look like. And then we've also gone to where we're accepting other third-party documents from the suppliers. If you have a SOC 2 in place or you have some of these other industry accepted audit documents, we'll accept those in lieu of going through the 400 question security assessment. So what we found is by taking those two really unique approaches, we've been able to go fast, but still have a pretty good level of comfort in terms of how thorough our assessments have been.
That sounds like a very proactive approach. Let me open the aperture a little bit on security. So, how do you see the impact of the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act and, other federal cybersecurity measures helping state and local agencies to strengthen their cybersecurity posture?
So Wyatt, I'm trying not to use the word giddy here, but I'm crazy excited about the focus that has been placed on cybersecurity from the federal level, both in terms of the legislation that's been passed, the cybersecurity grants that have been a part of that legislation, and then also the executive orders that we've seen over the last 2 years. It's clear cybersecurity is an area of focus. And they're really putting the resources around making that happen. And if you talk about the Infrastructure Jobs Act, the idea of having a planning committee at a state level that says, hey, this is the strategy that we're going to take for cybersecurity across the state and really take a whole of government approach to it, that is huge. A lot of the organizations that we're talking about in terms of local governments, municipalities, they don't have the same level of cybersecurity resources that maybe we do at the state level or even from our federal partners. Taking the time to put a state planning committee in place to set the standards and say, hey, this is where we can have the greatest impact on cybersecurity is huge. And you can actually point people towards the path that's going to make that big difference for them. And then actually having funding associated with it so that you can actually do some of these things that we're talking about having that would have a huge impact. So yeah, and you can see I'm stammering around a little bit. I'm just excited about the potential that has been placed out in front of us as a result of this legislation and some of these executive orders.
Yes, and we're seeing that a number of states really kind of pulling together those ideas. And now that there's some funding, they can get some traction. So very exciting to hear, and wish you good luck with that. Next, can you talk about an example of where you're seeing security modernization efforts, really paying off? So for example, how do you plan to build on those efforts?
So what I will tell you, so the last 2 years have seen huge digital transformation initiatives in the state of Oklahoma. But what we've been able to do is actually focused on identities right out the gate. And by doing that, it really sets the stage for, I'm going to use the word transformative again here, actually transforming how we do cybersecurity and ensuring the security of the services that we provide to our constituents. So, you look at how we do unemployment insurance, you look at how we do driver's licenses, those types of core services that states provide to their citizens. In Oklahoma, we're able to tie it back to a single identity now. It's not done yet. I don't want to get too far ahead of myself here, but I'm excited with where we're headed as a result of the focus on the identity. And that's really going to help us do all kinds of other things as we move forward.
Absolutely. And then lastly, Matt, what additional recommendations would you offer to state and local leaders as they continue putting enterprise solutions and services in place to strengthen their security?
So I'll give the default answer of focus on your large attack surfaces, right? So you want to make sure you're securing your endpoints. You want to make sure you're educating your users. So start in those areas. But I think probably the most important thing that I could share is get started. Don't wait for perfect. It's going to change as you roll it out. Get started. Find some area where you can have an immediate impact. And it's probably going to be in one of those two areas. But go ahead and get started and see where it goes from there and see how you can build upon the successes that you can have just by moving right out the gate.
Absolutely. Well, Matt Singleton, thank you very much for taking a few minutes to share some of your observations of what you're doing in Oklahoma and kind of the larger impact that's having on your citizens and employees.
Thanks, Wyatt. Always enjoy talking to you and look forward to talking to you again in the future.
Thank you.